Funnels have been on the rise recently, and that's because people have been realizing that copywriting alone isn't enough for a sales page. You need some sort of visual media to grab their attention. I'm How to Write VSLs, and today I'm going to tell you about the rise of VSL funnels and how it affects your business and how you can benefit from it. First of all, what is a VSL? Well, a VSL stands for a video sales letter. Basically what it is a video on the sales page that's designed to sell, typically with a book call button or a buy now button right below it. It's typically made for higher ticket products or services, which basically just means it's more for expensive products. And why people are using this now is because how B2B used to work was on demos and trying to sell people on cold calls or cold emails, which didn't really work. The reason this is because they don't know anything about your product. And every time you explain to them, there's a chance that you mess up since there's a human element in that. Since it's not optimized on the call, sometimes things just go wrong. And especially it wastes a lot of resources having to call each person individually, explain the entire product, and then ask them if they're down. The reality is most people don't really want to buy. Even after you've explained it, they just get on the call to want to figure out what it is. So that's why it's so important for a VSL. You can eliminate that human connection temporarily, so you can explain the product, and if people are interested, they can buy. So there's no human element before they're already pre-sold, as the term obviously suggests. Now, why are people gravitating towards VSLs instead of sticking with the old formula of cold calling? If it works for the customer, why don't businesses just stick with it? Well, that's the reason. It doesn't fit with customers. And as you can probably tell, a lot of things have gravitated away from calling. A lot of times in like 10, 20 years ago, you had to call somewhere to be able to get your electricity or ask about a car or whatever. Now you can just do all of that online, and self-education is way more common. You don't typically call someone to ask them a question. You typically just ask Google and you figure it out yourself. That's the same logic with a VSL, but instead of just having people trying to figure out what your product is, it's like you've already created a course for them. You've basically given them all the answers, and it's even better than a course because you're biased, since you have your own VSL and you wrote it, so that's why you can be a little bit more biased, which is even better than having someone cold call or searching on Google. The second thing is that even if a VSL makes less money than a sales team, which it typically doesn't, it costs way less. A VSL, even on the high end, costs at most $10,000–$15,000. Even a sales team, a full sales team in a month per person probably makes around $2,000–$3,000 minimum. That's like minimum wage. So I'm $15,000 for every month for a sales team. That racks up really quickly. So a VSL is just way better return on investment wise. And lastly is the first reason that I mentioned in the start of the video. It's because VSLs are just more attention grabbing. And right now, since TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all of these social media platforms, they're pushing these high energy, short attention span videos, which is really good unless you're trying to explain to people your product with only copywriting. It's the same reason why we watch YouTube video now instead of reading a book most of the time. It's because a book is just words. It's less attention grabbing than having visuals, sound effects, VFX, all that. So attention is the most valuable it's ever been, and a VSL is much more attention grabbing than just some plain copywriting. Now, how do VSLs actually work? Well, I have a complete detailed breakdown of how a VSL works. You can find that on Discord, I think. But in short, basically, it grabs people's attention with the hook, and that is the main part of the VSL. Once you've gotten their attention, the chances of getting a sales absolutely skyrockets. So the hook is the most important, and then you can explain your product. You can explain why your product is unique, and you can also give a few testimonials. After that, you can have a call to action, which again is one of the most important parts of a VSL. Why this is important is because, contrary to copywriting, people don't really care about the body. They only care about the first part and then the last part. They don't really read anything in between. They pretty much just skim it. If not, they just scroll all the way down. So that's why the middle part is so important in a VSL, is because people don't typically just skip to the end of videos. If you do, you're a bit weird, but no judging, but normal people don't do that. So you can get the uniqueness, you can get the offer, you can get the testimonials, which these three things are actually the most important, because if you don't have these three things, the hook and the CTA are completely useless. So you have to have those three things, and also a good hook and a good CTA, to be able to have a VSL that sells way better than just plain copywriting, where people just typically skip it. Now, you might be thinking, wow, VSLs must work for everything. Well, they don't. Even though I work on VSLs, we have a very certain criteria that you have to meet to be one of our clients. And the reason that is because B2C businesses typically that sell really low ticket products, like imagine just clothes or bags, or just pretty much any physical products around me, like my clothes, my guitars or blankets, whatever it is. Since those can be categorized as impulse purchases, where you either already know what you're gonna buy. So for example, like a car, the metrics of a car are just set in stone. You can't BS about a V6 turbo. A V6 turbo is a V6 turbo compared to like an i8, whatever it is. Those don't really work in that regard. Another reason for something like clothes is because they're typically impulse purchases. So you don't want that extra layer of friction where you have 6 to 10 minutes of the VSL length for people to think, do I really need this? They pretty much don't really need this, so that 6 to 10 minutes is just extra friction. But the reason why it works with a VSL is because people are already considering. They're like, oh, this costs $3,000 to $4,000. Should I? Instead of I want it, you know. So the friction is fine there, because if you don't have the friction, people just leave, and you'd rather have a little bit more friction than for people to just skim everything and leave your website. So that's the end of the video. In short, VSLs are getting more and more popular because 1, people don't read copywriting, 2, it's way more cost efficient compared to a sales team, and 3, it's just way more self-educating, if you know what I mean. There's way less friction compared to the old method of just calling people and asking. Sales funnels are coming on the rise, and they honestly should have been for a long time. However, that's not something I want to be talking about. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please check out some of my other videos, like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions, or if you just want to say something, comment down below stuff. I'll try to respond, and that will be the end of the video. Hope you have a great day. God bless.